Marketing owns acquisition. Support owns the tickets. Social owns the engagement. Product owns the features. But what about the customers? When that's fragmented, they're the ones who are experiencing the gaps. And trust me, they don't give a flip about your org chart. Hey, party people, and welcome back to the Social Media CX podcast. Customer experience doesn't break under pressure. It reveals what's already broken. That's what the entire CX Under Pressure series has been about. Over the last 4 episodes, we looked at customer experience from 4 very different angles. We started with Tyler Stambaugh, and we explored how brands are still over-indexing on transactions instead of relationships. Then we talked to Katie Robert, where we saw how quickly reputation can unravel or be rebuilt right in public. We also chatted with Lisa Martin and unpacked how AI is fundamentally changing how trust works with our customers. And we ended with Scott Lee Holloway and looked at how the voice of customer and digital CX actually get operationalized at a large bank. Different conversations, but they all had the same conclusion. Most brands don't have a customer experience problem. They have an operational discipline problem. Let's get into the recap. Let's start where the series started, which is my conversation with Tyler. And he said something during the interview that really stuck with me, which was this. Most organizations are still designing customer experience around transactions. Sounds true because it is. They're not looking at relationships. We see this everywhere. They respond just enough to get those tickets closed. They optimize just enough to get that conversion. They measure just enough to report on activity. But they don't design what happens after. As Tyler pointed out, that's the gap. Because emotionally connected customers, we know this through research, they spend more. They stay longer. They advocate for your brand more. But most CX systems aren't built to support that. If you haven't listened to my episode with Tyler, go back to that one because it sets the foundation for everything else in this series. Another pattern that showed up across every conversation, and I do mean every conversation, is that everyone on your team touches the customer in one way or another. However, it's very rare that any one team or person owns the experience because marketing owns acquisition, support owns the tickets, social owns the engagement, product owns the features. But what about the customers? When that's fragmented, they're the ones who are experiencing the gaps. And trust me, they don't give a flip about your org chart. This is what Tyler was getting at when he talked about fragmented systems and patchwork tooling. And it's also what Scott reinforced from a banking perspective. He said, if voice of customer isn't connected to decision making, it just becomes noise. And that's why and where CX starts to feel disconnected or delayed, and definitely where it's coming from a reactive place instead of a proactive place. And when that pressure hits, the fragmentation gets exposed quickly. This is where the conversation then with Katie hit really hard because her story wasn't about a massive crisis. It was just one customer who felt ignored and escalated things publicly on like several channels, but she was attacking the wrong company. That's the pattern, y'all. People don't escalate because they're angry. They do sometimes, but really they escalate and they go platform by platform and start leaving reviews in 17 different places because no one responded. And Katie showed us that the fastest way to protect trust isn't proving someone wrong. Hey, you're talking to the wrong brand. This review isn't for us. It's just showing up and listening and seeing how they can help. Inaction is no longer invisible thanks to social media. It's public and now it's searchable. And increasingly, it's training the AI systems on how to describe your brand so that when someone goes through and asks a question about an experience with your brand, if you've got all those negative social conversations, if you've got all those negative reviews, the AI is going to pull from that and give that as this is what the brand experience is. That's not marketing. This is risk. And risk, I don't care how good your marketing is going to hurt sales. Then we brought in Lisa, and she reframed the entire AI conversation in one sentence, which was, if you apply AI to the wrong workflows, you get activity and not actual outcomes. That's where most brands are right now. They've deployed AI, but they haven't defined where it should be used or what success looks like or who even owns the outcome of that setup. So what happens? Your customers get stuck. The signals get missed and trust continues to erode. And this isn't because AI failed. We can't blame it on the tool. It's because the system built around it wasn't designed properly. When we just bolt AI on to a problem, that's not a solve. And in public, these failures are highly visible. This is where Scott's perspective becomes critical as well, because a lot of organizations are listening, but very few are acting on that information that they're receiving. Scott talked about how social listening feeds directly into decision-making and operational improvements at APS Bank. That's the difference right there. It seems so simple. If you weren't listening, you'd probably miss it. So that's why I'm pointing it out here. That is the difference. Not the act of listening itself, not the act of responding to these people on social and getting that voice of customer data from there too, but taking action on what you find. Because voice of customer data without action is just another report for all of us to read. And we know that most of our reports don't even get read in the first place. And by the way, reporting doesn't improve your customer experience unless you're doing something with that reporting. The decisions that you make based on that reporting are what improves the customer experience. When you connect all four of these conversations, the shift becomes pretty obvious. We are moving from reactive CX to controlled CX, which is good. We're moving. It might be at a glacial pace, but we're moving. Here's what reactive looks like, just in case you're wondering, is this me? Wait times, long wait times, waiting for replies, internal customer support, long wait times, responding late or not at all. Managing volume. Oh, we have 10,000 conversations a month coming in. Great. But what are you doing with those conversations? That's just a volume play. Controlled CX looks like designing systems, catching issues early, tracking outcomes from voice of customer data. So again, if you're behind, that's okay, but it's likely because you're still measuring things on social, specifically like impressions, engagement, volume, instead of the 3 R's: resolution, retention, and revenue impact. So not only are we solving problems, we're keeping those customers in our flock, we're upping the lifetime value of that customer, but also what kind of revenue impact are we having on the acquisition side? Are we able to help grab new customers too and not just retain old ones? So what does all this mean? It means that customer experience is no longer a support function, it's not a marketing function, and it's not a nice to have. It's a risk and revenue function. If it's done correctly with the right systems in place, it protects trust, it prevents churn, and it captures demand. And all of that for social care happens in public, which means it's visible, which means you're accountable, which means word of mouth hopefully spreads in a good way, right? Positive sentiment versus negative sentiment. If you want to go deeper in everything we covered from the series, all the way from AI and automation to reputation risk, response times, and what actually drives these outcomes, make sure you download our State of Social Care report for 2026. It breaks down what's actually happening across brands, where teams are falling short, and what the highest performing organizations are doing differently. It gives you a roadmap or a blueprint or a playbook to help set up or improve on your own social care program. You'll find the link in the show notes, which is the transcript on whichever platform you are listening or watching on. I want to thank everybody, Katie, Tyler, Lisa, Scott, for all of the wisdom that they dropped and giving us a whole month of really top-notch content. And on that note, if this series is helping you think different about customer experience in public channels, please rate and review us. It helps us bring on more thoughtful leaders like Tyler, Katie, Lisa, and Scott, and keeps our community growing with intention. Until next time, think conversation, not campaign. Thanks for tuning in to the Social Media CX podcast. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to up their social care game.